The city lights of Seattle glimmered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Drake penthouse. Lydia Voss adjusted the crisp white tablecloth, her fingers trembling ever so slightly. Everything had to be perfect tonight. Cameron would never suspect what was coming. Not here. Not now. She heard the soft click of the elevator and held her breath. Cameron Drake stepped in, his tailored suit impeccable, his smile casual, unaware. "Lydia," he said, voice warm, "you've outdone yourself. Dinner smells amazing." Lydia smiled just enough to mask the storm brewing inside her. "I thought we deserved a quiet night. Just the two of us. And, well, family," she added smoothly, gesturing toward the adjoining dining room where Cameron's parents had already arrived, seated stiffly, pretending not to notice the tension. From the shadows of the hallway, Serena Blythe's eyes glinted. She lingered, supposedly dropping by to say hi. But everyone knew the truth. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor with deliberate precision. Lydia's lips curved into a calm, almost sweet smile. Inside, she was counting the seconds. Dinner started with polite conversation, the clinking of cutlery punctuating forced laughter. Cameron's father, Mr. Drake, complimented the wine selection, oblivious to the storm lurking beneath the polished surface. Serena leaned casually against the wall, sipping her champagne, eyes locked on Cameron, and Lydia let them have their little moment. Let him feel it. Then, Lydia stood. Glass in hand, she allowed a breath to escape. "Before we start eating, I have something I need to share," she said, her voice steady, cold. Cameron's smile faltered. Serena raised an eyebrow. Mr. Drake looked puzzled. The room went quiet, like the city itself had held its breath. From her purse, Lydia pulled out a sleek folder. She laid it on the table. "These," she said, letting the word hang in the air, "are divorce papers." Cameron's jaw tightened. "Lydia, what?" "Shh," she interrupted, her tone slicing through the air. "Let's not pretend we didn't see this coming. I've been patient. Too patient." Serena's hand trembled slightly. She didn't expect this. Not in front of the family. Not tonight. Her smug confidence wavered for the first time. Lydia walked slowly around the table, letting every eye follow her. "I wanted this to be civilized. Clean. But apparently some people need a little public reminder of consequences." Her gaze locked on Serena. "Especially those who think they can step into someone else's life without repercussions." Cameron's face drained of color. "Lydia, please, this is reality, Cameron," Lydia cut him off. "Do you think I didn't notice the texts, the meetings, the lies whispered behind my back?" She paused, letting the silence settle like a weight in the room. Mr. Drake coughed, unsure how to react, while Serena's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, the mistress realized she was not the one in control tonight. "Sign them, or don't," Lydia continued, her eyes unwavering. "Either way, tonight is the turning point. No more secrets, no more pretending. This ends now." A tense beat. Cameron's hand shook as he reached for the folder, then hesitated, eyes darting between Lydia and Serena. The clock ticked audibly somewhere in the background, each second stretching into an eternity. Serena finally spoke, voice low but sharp. "You think this changes anything? You can't just—" "Oh, Serena," Lydia said softly, almost mockingly. "I've already changed everything. And tonight, everyone sees it. The truth, plain as day." The room was thick with tension. Cutlery rattled nervously. Cameron's mother grasped her handkerchief, unsure whether to cry or flee. Lydia's heart beat steadily, but every nerve was electric with anticipation. Suddenly, the elevator pinged again. A new presence arrived. Malcolm Reyes, the private investigator Lydia had hired months ago, stepped in quietly, surveying the room. He nodded subtly to Lydia, confirming that all her preparations, the texts, the recordings, the evidence of betrayal, were documented and ready. Cameron's eyes widened as he realized the depth of Lydia's planning. This was more than divorce. This was exposure, and there was no turning back. Serena's confidence crumbled. She straightened, trying to regain composure, but the cold precision in Lydia's gaze made it clear. Tonight, the rules had changed. Lydia placed her hand on the folder one last time. "Dinner is served," she said, voice calm, deadly. But not a word about the chaos she had unleashed had escaped her. She simply watched, poised, as the lives around her trembled. Outside, the Seattle rain tapped rhythmically against the windows, a muted applause to the storm Lydia had orchestrated. The first bite of justice had been served, and it would taste bitter. The room was frozen, each breath loud, each heartbeat echoing in the penthouse. Cameron's hand hovered over the folder, his mind racing. His calm, polished exterior cracked under the weight of Lydia's revelation. This was not just a divorce. This was a public unraveling of everything he thought he controlled. "Cameron," Lydia said, her voice steady, almost serene. "Go ahead. Sign it if you dare. Or step back and face what comes next." Cameron swallowed hard. Sweat pricked his temples. He looked at Serena, hoping for an ally, but the mistress's face betrayed panic beneath her forced poise. She had underestimated Lydia's precision. Every move, every text, every whispered secret in the past months had been documented, waiting for tonight. Serena cleared her throat. "Lydia, this is extreme. Can't we talk?" Lydia's eyes narrowed slightly. "Talk? You've already made your choice, Serena. You chose him over respect, over decency. You chose to insert yourself into my life, and now everyone sees it, publicly." Malcolm Reyes shifted slightly near the doorway. His presence was silent, but commanding. He had been Lydia's shadow for months, tracing Cameron's infidelity, capturing evidence, mapping betrayals. Tonight, he ensured Lydia held all the cards. Cameron's parents exchanged uneasy glances. Mr. Drake muttered under his breath, "I didn't expect this." Mrs. Drake's hands trembled as she clutched her napkin, her eyes flicking from Lydia to Cameron, silently questioning how their family had reached this point. The sound of rain intensified against the windows, a staccato rhythm that seemed to punctuate the tension in the room. Lydia leaned slightly toward Cameron, her expression icy yet controlled. "You think you're clever. You think no one notices the late nights, the secret calls, the lies. But I noticed. I always notice." Cameron's throat tightened. "Lydia, it's not what you think," he stammered. "It's exactly what I think," Lydia interrupted. "And now, the truth is visible to everyone who matters. Or perhaps everyone who should know the truth." She allowed a small pause, letting her words sink. Serena flinched, realizing her carefully constructed mask of innocence was cracking. The room seemed to shrink around Cameron. His mind scrambled, calculating damage control, but Lydia had anticipated every move. Every hesitation, every feigned emotion, every attempt at manipulation. She had already thought it through. Lydia's hand rested lightly on the folder again. "Do you know what the difference is between me and you, Cameron?" she asked softly. Yet there was steel beneath her calm tone. "I don't act on impulse. I plan. You act, you lie, you scheme, but the consequences always find you." Serena stepped forward, her voice sharp now. "You're being dramatic. This doesn't have to ruin everything tonight." "Oh, but it already has," Lydia said, voice low, almost a whisper that cut through the room. "And the best part? The evidence isn't just these papers, it's the texts, the emails, the recordings. You built this web yourself." She glanced subtly at Malcolm, who nodded imperceptibly, confirming the layers of proof she possessed. Cameron's knuckles whitened on the table. He looked around, desperate for a lifeline, any escape. But there was none. He had underestimated Lydia, underestimated her patience and intellect. Lydia moved deliberately toward the dining room window. Rain streaked down the glass, distorting the city lights outside, mirroring the chaos inside. "Do you think I'll crumble?" she asked rhetorically. "Do you think I won't fight for myself, for my dignity?" Malcolm stepped closer to the wall, a silent sentinel. His eyes, trained to detect lies, revealed the cracks in both Cameron and Serena. They had no idea he had been documenting everything, preparing for the exact moment Lydia needed leverage. Serena's fingers twitched. Her confidence had been shattered by Lydia's calm, strategic dominance. She had thought she controlled the situation by seduction and subtle manipulation, but Lydia had flipped the board entirely. Cameron finally spoke, voice low and tense. "Lydia, we can fix this. Please, let's talk privately." Lydia's smile was thin, sharp. "Fix? No, not anymore. This is about exposure, about accountability. Tonight, you see the power of someone who has been wronged but refuses to be silent." She placed one last deliberate tap on the folder, a punctuation to her statement. A distant sound of thunder rattled the windows, echoing the tension. It was as if nature itself was applauding the storm Lydia had unleashed. Malcolm finally broke the silence, his voice calm but firm. "Everything is documented. Any attempts at retaliation, lies, or interference will be backed with proof. The next move is yours, Lydia. But know this, the playing field is now entirely under your control." Cameron's eyes flicked to Malcolm, realizing he was outmaneuvered. Every contingency he had relied on was dismantled. His secrets, once hidden, were now fully exposed to everyone in the room. Lydia straightened, taking a deep breath, her gaze sweeping over the room. "Tonight is only the beginning," she said softly. "This isn't just a divorce. This is a reckoning." Serena's jaw tightened, her mind racing for a counter-strategy. Cameron's confidence had collapsed entirely. Even his parents were paralyzed by shock. And Lydia? She remained composed, almost eerily calm, the architect of the chaos she had orchestrated. The rain outside slowed to a drizzle, but the storm inside the Drake penthouse was just beginning. Serena retreats to her car, plotting retaliation. Cameron realizes Lydia's plan includes not just divorce, but total exposure. Malcolm hints at more evidence yet to be revealed. Who will strike first, and who will crumble under the pressure? Serena Blythe slammed the car door, the echo ringing off the empty Seattle streets. Her heels clicked harshly on the pavement as she pulled out her phone, dialing numbers she hadn't touched in months. "I need everything we have on Lydia Voss," she said, voice sharp. "Every mistake, every secret, every angle. Cameron may be mine, but she thinks she can ruin me too. Not a chance." Inside the Drake penthouse, Lydia remained poised, the calm eye in the storm she had created. The dinner had ended hours ago, but the reverberations were just beginning. Cameron sat in stunned silence, staring at the folder of divorce papers, his mind spinning. For the first time, he truly saw Lydia, not just as his wife, but as a strategist, someone who had played this game perfectly. Malcolm Reyes leaned against the counter, sipping coffee. "She's dangerous," Cameron muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "I didn't realize how much she planned." "She's not dangerous," Malcolm corrected gently, eyes steady. "She's precise, calculated, and she knows exactly what to do next. You, Cameron, have to choose whether to cooperate or crumble." Meanwhile, across the city, Serena's network of allies began to move. Her phone buzzed incessantly, encrypted messages, contacts reactivated, whispers of secrets and dirt she had collected over years. Serena was methodical, the mistress who refused to be humiliated. Every step she planned tonight was designed to destabilize Lydia before she could strike again. Back at the penthouse, Lydia reviewed her own digital archive, confirming all emails, text messages, recordings, and evidence were perfectly aligned. Every angle Cameron and Serena might use to turn the tables was anticipated. She paused, fingers hovering over her tablet, and smiled faintly. They think they are the hunters, but tonight the prey is under control. Cameron's phone vibrated violently. He glanced at the screen, and his stomach sank. Serena had already started her first strike, a subtle leak of a misinterpreted message designed to make Lydia appear unreasonable to mutual friends and colleagues. A test. A probe. And Lydia? She hadn't flinched. She expected this. "Cameron," Lydia said softly, but with cutting clarity, "you need to understand something. This isn't just about the papers you've seen. It's about who controls the narrative. You think hiding behind Serena will save you? Every lie, every excuse is already documented." Cameron opened his mouth, but no words came. The weight of the truth and the realization of his own complicity pressed down on him. He had underestimated Lydia every step of the way, and now even Serena, his supposed ally, was beginning to panic. Serena wasn't one to wait. She infiltrated the Penthouse network, sending messages to a few journalists, hinting at hidden scandals within Cameron Drake's life. A subtle leak, but enough to create doubt, tension, and whispers. If Lydia didn't respond carefully, the media might turn on her before she even acted. But Lydia had anticipated this. Malcolm's calm presence reminded her she had all her own leverage ready. "They move," Malcolm said quietly. "You counter." Lydia's strategy was simple, yet brilliant. First, she allowed Serena's initial strike to breathe, recording every reaction, every contact, every attempt to manipulate the story. Then, she would counteract with irrefutable proof, emails, texts, and recordings that exposed Serena's manipulation, Cameron's complicity, and the truth behind every lie. Every move they made was part of her plan. Hours passed. Seattle's rain had intensified, drumming against the penthouse windows, matching Lydia's pulse. Cameron sat silently, Serena's words and movements now seeming desperate. He realized she was no longer just a wife seeking divorce. She was orchestrating the unraveling of both their lives with meticulous precision. Suddenly, the phone rang. Malcolm picked it up. His brow furrowed as he listened for a moment. Then slowly he handed the phone to Lydia. On the other end, a calm yet threatening voice said, "Miss Voss, I hear you've been playing a dangerous game." It was Serena, clearly attempting to intimidate, but Lydia's smile didn't waver. "Serena," Lydia said, voice smooth, unshaken, "the game isn't dangerous for me. It's dangerous for anyone who thinks they can cheat, lie, and manipulate without consequences. You've already made your first mistake by underestimating me." Silence followed. On the other end, Serena's fingers twitched over her phone, unsure how to respond. Lydia's calm authority was suffocating her confidence. The hunter had become the hunted. Malcolm leaned slightly toward Lydia, whispering, "They don't know what's coming next. You're in total control." Lydia's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Then let's see how desperate they get." The storm outside mirrored the storm inside, unrelenting, chaotic, and unavoidable. The lines were drawn, allies and enemies, truth and deception, all intersecting in a dangerous dance. And in the center of it all, Lydia stood poised, the master of every unfolding move. Serena is preparing her next counterstrike. Cameron begins to secretly fear Lydia more than he feared scandal, and Malcolm hints that Lydia has yet another layer of strategy ready. Who will make the next move, and who will crumble first? The city lights of Seattle blurred through the rain-soaked windows, but inside the Drake penthouse, a different storm was brewing. Lydia Voss stood near the dining table, reviewing her notes and digital evidence one last time. Every word, every move, every secret she had collected over months had been meticulously organized. Tonight, it would all unfold. Cameron Drake sat slumped in a chair, his confidence fractured. He had hoped the divorce papers would scare Lydia into submission, but her calm precision had shattered his illusions. He no longer felt in control. Every glance at her reminded him that he had underestimated her, and that mistake could cost him everything. Malcolm Reyes, leaning casually against the wall, checked his phone. "She's ready," he said. "The timing is perfect. Serena's next move is predictable." Lydia's gaze flicked to the folder of divorce papers, then to Cameron, then finally to the door, imagining Serena's smug smile moments ago. She had anticipated every tactic Serena could deploy, and tonight she would turn the tables. The first strike was subtle but devastating. Lydia began sending carefully curated messages to key people, friends, colleagues, even Cameron's business associates, screenshots of Cameron's lies, recordings of Serena's manipulations. Each message was crafted to reveal the truth without revealing her hand entirely. Cameron's phone buzzed incessantly. His face paled as he realized the whispers and murmurs that had begun spreading across his circle. Emails, texts, and subtle leaks painted him as complicit in the deception, not a victim. Serena's confidence began to crumble. She hadn't expected Lydia to hit first, and hit hard. Cameron's mother, previously bewildered and silent, now looked on in shock. "Is this true?" she whispered. "Yes," Lydia said softly, her voice like ice. "And it's only the beginning. Every attempt to manipulate, to deceive, is now visible. Every secret you thought was hidden, exposed." Serena, desperate to regain control, called Cameron. "We can still fix this," she hissed, her voice sharp, tense. "She won't get away with ruining everything." Lydia's smile was cold. "Oh, she already has," Malcolm whispered, his eyes scanning Serena's patterns online. "The evidence, the timing, everything. They are cornered." Cameron's hands shook as he realized the depth of Lydia's strategy. She wasn't just reacting, she was orchestrating. Each move he and Serena had ever made was catalogued, each lie meticulously tracked, every countermeasure anticipated. Lydia's phone buzzed with responses from her contacts, friends and associates confirming the messages had been received. Each reply reinforced the narrative she wanted to control. The truth, in full, with undeniable clarity. Cameron's attempts at control were crumbling. Serena's efforts to intimidate were failing. And Lydia? She was calm, strategic, untouchable. Malcolm watched her, impressed despite himself. "You've thought of everything," he said quietly. "I had to," Lydia replied. Her eyes flicked to Cameron. "Some people only learn lessons the hard way." The tension in the room became almost unbearable. Cameron's chest rose and fell rapidly, his mind racing to find an escape. He realized that pleading, bribing, or negotiating would accomplish nothing. Lydia had constructed a cage he could not escape from. Suddenly, the penthouse door clicked open. Serena stepped in, her expression a mix of rage and desperation. She had come in person to confront Lydia, but the calm authority she faced stopped her in her tracks. "You're lucky this is just a divorce," Lydia said softly, her eyes cold. "Otherwise, well, you'd know exactly what happens when someone crosses me." Serena's lips trembled. She had underestimated Lydia at every turn. The mistress who once believed she could manipulate and control the situation realized too late that she was being dismantled piece by piece. Cameron's phone rang again, another subtle leak from Lydia's orchestrated network. This time it included video evidence of secret meetings, texts, and messages that implicated both Cameron and Serena. The final blow was not public shaming, but undeniable documentation. Serena's confidence broke. Cameron's hands covered his face. For the first time, both realized Lydia's control was absolute. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, reflecting the eerie calm that followed the storm Lydia had unleashed inside. But inside, tension lingered like smoke, every word unspoken, every glance loaded with consequence. Malcolm finally broke the silence. "They've taken the bait. Now we wait. Every move they make from here will only reinforce your position." Lydia nodded. Her plan was not just about revenge, it was about exposing truth, forcing accountability, and proving that deception had a price. Cameron and Serena had underestimated her resolve, her patience, and her strategy. And now, they were trapped in a game they did not understand. Cameron and Serena scrambled to protect themselves, but Lydia's first strike has set off a chain reaction. Will Serena find a way to strike back, or will Lydia crush their manipulation completely? Malcolm hints that the next phase of Lydia's plan could be irreversible. Seattle's skyline glittered under a storm-cleared sky, but inside the Drake penthouse, the atmosphere was suffocating. Lydia Voss stood at the center of the dining room, serene, commanding, and fully aware of the chaos she had orchestrated. Months of planning, observation, and meticulous preparation had led to this moment. Cameron Drake's face was pale, every ounce of his former arrogance eroded. He had watched as Lydia executed her plan, each move dismantling his lies, his manipulation, and the fragile shield Serena once provided. Now, reality had a sharp edge, cutting through every pretense he had built. Serena Blythe paced nervously, her heels clicking against the hardwood. Every step was calculated, but her confidence had shattered. She had underestimated Lydia, thinking she could outmaneuver her, manipulate her, or intimidate her into silence. Tonight, she realized she was trapped. Lydia's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "It's time," she said softly, almost a whisper, yet heavy with authority. Time for accountability. Time for truth. Malcolm Reyes, standing quietly by the window, gave Lydia a small nod. Every piece of evidence, every carefully documented moment, had been positioned to maximize impact. Cameron and Serena were about to face a reckoning unlike anything they had imagined. The first display of power was subtle yet devastating. Lydia turned her tablet, projecting key evidence on the large screen behind her. Emails, messages, videos, all clearly showing Cameron's infidelity and Serena's manipulations, flashed in chronological order. The story was undeniable. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal was now laid bare for all to see. Cameron's hand trembled as he reached for the table, but the grip of reality left him paralyzed. His mind raced for excuses, for explanations, for some path to salvage dignity. But Lydia had already removed every escape route. Serena froze, her lips parted, searching for a response. Every smirk, every attempt at intimidation, every whispered manipulation was now exposed. Lydia's meticulous documentation made it impossible to deny her involvement, yet it also revealed the extent of Cameron's betrayal. "Look closely," Lydia said, her tone cold, precise. "Everything you thought hidden is here. Every move, every secret, every lie, visible to those who matter. And now the world you tried to control is in my hands." Malcolm Reyes added, "It's over. The narrative is fully yours, Lydia. Every attempt to fight back will only reinforce the truth." The room was silent, the weight of exposure pressing down on both Cameron and Serena. Lydia stepped closer to them, each movement deliberate, controlled, and imposing. Her presence was undeniable, commanding attention, respect, and fear. "You wanted power, control, secrecy," Lydia continued. "But tonight the scales are balanced. You will face consequences for every choice you made against me." Cameron's voice finally broke through, hoarse and desperate. "Lydia, please. This doesn't have to ruin everything. We can work this out." Lydia's smile was thin, sharp. "No. That ship has sailed." "The truth isn't negotiable. Accountability isn't optional. Justice isn't delayed." She paused, letting the words sink. "And sometimes the only way to achieve it is to act decisively." Serena's eyes darted to Cameron, then back to Lydia. She understood fully now that her schemes had failed. Lydia's strategic brilliance had not only neutralized Serena, but had turned every attempt at manipulation into self-exposure. With a deliberate motion, Lydia pressed a few keys on the tablet. The next layer of evidence appeared: confidential messages, hidden communications, secret financial moves, proof that Serena and Cameron had colluded to maintain their deception. The screen was a trap, perfectly engineered to corner them both. Cameron slumped into a chair, defeated. Serena's shoulders sagged, her confidence completely shattered. The two had been played, outmaneuvered, and exposed in a way they could neither deny nor escape. Lydia's final move was elegant and subtle. She handed Cameron the signed divorce papers. This is the last step. Sign, acknowledge, and face the truth. Refuse, and the consequences extend far beyond what you've already seen. Cameron's hands shook, but he signed. Serena, defeated, realized she had no allies, no escape, and no recourse. She was finished. Lydia had won, not through violence, but through precision, planning, and the power of truth. Malcolm Reyes observed quietly, impressed. Lydia had executed a flawless campaign of exposure and accountability. Every threat had been anticipated, every move countered, every deception revealed. The chaos had been orchestrated perfectly, with maximum impact. As the room settled into an eerie calm, Lydia allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. The storm outside Seattle had passed, leaving the city glistening under streetlights. Inside, a different kind of storm had concluded, one of justice, strategy, and cold brilliance. Lydia Voss had not just survived betrayal, she had dominated it. Cameron and Serena had underestimated her, and they had paid the price. The penthouse was silent except for the soft hum of the city below, a quiet witness to the reckoning that had unfolded. Though justice had been served, Lydia's eyes hinted at the next challenge. Revenge and manipulation may have been neutralized tonight, but Seattle's shadows always hide new threats. One final look at the city below, and Lydia knew. This victory was monumental, but it was only the beginning.